And Brian, the moment I see one person in the queue, I'm going to give you the go-ahead to start.
Okay.
So let's just give it a second. We're making those initial dials right now, so people haven't even finished listening to the message all the way. It's about 30 seconds long, so they won't even be joining. Okay, there we go. Brian, you can go ahead and start.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall about the importance of voting no on Proposition 487, a City of Phoenix ballot measure that will destroy retirement benefits for all City of Phoenix employees, including both civilian and sworn workers, and it will cost Phoenix taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. My name is Brian Jeffries, and I'm the president of the Professional Firefighters of Arizona, and I will be moderator for tonight's event. We will begin in just a moment, and we are excited to have you join us. Before we begin, a few quick points to make. Right now, we're in the process of dialing out to thousands of people, so just stay on the line, and we'll be hearing from our speakers shortly. Also, we really want to hear from you. If you would like to ask a question, please press 0 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be connected directly to one of our volunteer operators. Again, if you have a question, please press 0 to ask it. Hi there. If you have just joined us, good evening and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall about the importance of voting no on Proposition 487, a City of Phoenix ballot measure that will destroy retirement benefits for all City of Phoenix employees, including both civilian and sworn workers. And it'll cost Phoenix taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. My name is Brian Jeffries, and I'm the president of the Professional Firefighters of Arizona. I will be the moderator for tonight's event. We will begin in just a moment. We're excited to have you join us. Before we begin, just a few quick points to make. Right now, we're in the process of dialing out to thousands of people, so stay on the line, and we'll be hearing from our speakers here just shortly. Also, we really want to hear from you. If you would like to ask a question, please press 0 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be connected directly with one of our volunteer operators. Again, please press 0 to ask a question. And with that, I'll get started. I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this evening. The first speaker we're going to have, his name is Steve Berline. Steve is a very long-time firefighter, and he is the president of the Phoenix Firefighters Association, representing all the firefighters and paramedics throughout Phoenix and as well as other valley communities. And we'd like to hear from Steve a little bit before we start. Steve, are you there?
Can you hear me now, Brian?
I sure can. Welcome,
Okay.
Steve. This is Steve Berline. He's the president of the Phoenix Firefighters.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you all for participating tonight. As we all know, Proposition 487 is a dark, out-of-state, money-funded initiative, and it's primarily headed up by the Citizens for Pension Reform and the Arizona Free Enterprise Club. We know for a fact it is going to cause a devastating impact to police officers and firefighters who will lose their death and disability benefits as we know them today by not participating in the PSPRS system, which we participate in today. It also will cost the city over $6 million. It is primarily opposed by the firefighters, police officers, other city employees. The Mayor, Greg Stanton, also opposes 487. Council members Danny Valenzuela, Kate Gallegos, Laura Pastor, Felda Williams, and Michael Nowakowski also oppose Prop 487. And also in opposition to 487 is Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And thank you all again for participating this evening.
Well, I can see we've already got some questions rolling in, and I really appreciate that. We're going to get to those questions in just a moment. Before then, we want to start with our first polling question, and we're going to start with a question, and just take a moment to listen. The question is, have you heard about the No on 487 campaign? If you've heard about the No on 487 campaign, please press 1 for yes. If you've not heard about the No on 487 campaign, press 2 for no, or press 3 if you're unsure. We're going to start the polling now, please. Again, have you heard about the No on 487 campaign? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for unsure. Okay, and as we're doing the polling, we're going to go and stand by for just a moment. Okay, while we're going through the polling, we are going to move over to questions. Okay, with that, we're going to go to Tony. Tony, go ahead with your question.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I just have a big question, and it causes confusion, is that if there was pension spiking that was eliminated last year in 2013 with no more vacation and sick time sellback for the fire and police units, why then, and that was an agreement with the whole City Council and the Goldwater Institute to end pension spiking, then why does this Proposition 487 claim that there's still pension spiking going on? I think it just causes confusion, and to turn and take away those benefits from police and fire would be devastating for both sides of the community and the public safety first responders. So that's a big question that I don't understand.
Okay, Tony, thank you for that question. And I'm going to defer that question to Steve Berline. My understanding is that all the pension spiking has been relieved in all aspects of the city of Phoenix, and the way I understand it is that's just become a red herring for the other side to push people onto 401ks so they can bring a lot of fees and other things for Wall Street. But I'll turn that over to Steve to answer you even more specifically.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Tony, for the question. Absolutely, I can speak firsthand. As Brian mentioned earlier, I am a captain with the Phoenix Fire Department, and I am in a point in my career to take advantage of those benefits that we did have. Now, mind you, we used to have to achieve certain levels of hours accrued to be able to sell back those hours in lieu of accruing more, and it took me 24 years to save enough vacation time to participate in that benefit that the other side called pension spiking. Now, I never reached it as far as my sick hours because, unfortunately, it's a dangerous career. We're faced with a lot of exposures, illnesses, and injuries, and I would never would have never seen those numbers. But I can tell you, after 24 years, I achieved enough vacation hours to sell my hours back, and that ended coming out of negotiations. The city said no more, the mayor said no more, and we negotiated, we talked about it, and that was the agreement we came to with the city. So that pension spiking is gone. But as Brian alluded to, it's a hot topic out there, and it polls very high for the yes group. So they keep saying it, and they keep repeating it as if it were true, but it's inaccurate. The other reform that took place last year was all city employee pension reform, and that's had a positive effect so far. And the yes on 487 side, they don't like to talk about that either. So pensions have already been reformed by the citizens a year ago, and pension spiking ended this year in negotiations. Thank you, Tony, for that question.
And thank you, Steve, for that answer. And it is really disheartening to hear the lies that are going on the other side of this issue. They keep bringing up pension spiking, which, as we know, no longer exists in any form in the city of Phoenix. In addition, they have even gone so far as to talk about that this is good for police and fire, which, as you're hearing tonight, is just a bold-faced lie. And so with that, let's move on to our next question. Our next question comes from Troy.
Hi, my name's Troy. How you doing?
Welcome, Troy. Thank you.
My question is for Captain Berline. I'm curious who this company is, this Goldwater Institute, and if they are from Phoenix or if they're trying to help out Phoenix. Because from what I've seen, the voter mailers say that it will help with taxes, and I'm not sure how it's going to help with taxes or if they're even from this state or if they care about Phoenicians like myself.
Thank you for that question. The Goldwater Institute is a local think tank, and I don't know. I don't know what their agenda is. I do know that they're connected with the larger organizations as the Free Enterprise Club, an extension of the Koch brothers. That whole group, just ultra-conservative, anti-government organization, and they've proven in their actions over and over and over. So I don't know exactly what they're up to, but I know the moves that they're making as far as Prop 487 goes will be devastating to police and fire and to the entire city of Phoenix.
Brian, this is Andrew Morrill, if I might add to that response.
Yes, and if you will, it's perfect timing, Andrew, because I was about to introduce you here to the crowd. And so I want to welcome Andrew Morrill to the discussion. He is our second speaker for this evening. Andrew Morrill is the president, statewide president of the Arizona Education Association. We're really glad to have him, and I think he can add to that answer. Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, AEA and AEA members are proud to stand with the employees, the city of Phoenix, the firefighters, police officers, with AFSCME, with the folks on the call tonight in strong opposition to Prop 487, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the Goldwater Institute calls itself a watchdog of the taxpayer. Let's be very clear. They are a lobbying group that does the work of the National American Legislative Exchange Council. This is a anti-public sector, anti-public worker, very well funded, usually funded with dark money from the Koch brothers and others, national coordinated political group with agendas that they try to drive in every state. And what they're doing right now is trying to work 487 through the city of Phoenix as a bellwether piece to later on try a statewide initiative. We know this to be true, to wipe out public pensions. They are against the public sector. So the Goldwater Institute does the work in Arizona that the ALEC network, ALEC, does nationally. And that's why the AEA took a position of opposition to 487 and joined in the cause to oppose Prop 487, and we did it for two reasons very quickly. One, we are a union. We are a professional association of educators, but we are a union in Arizona, and we stand with our brothers and sisters in other unions to oppose 487 because, after all, harm to one union is harm to all unions, and it's harm to the middle class. Virtually every person in a professional association or union in Arizona is a member of the middle class. And the dominoes that Goldwater and Free Enterprise Club and all these great-sounding groups want to set up are first to make the city of Phoenix employees lose financial security, lose retirement security, lose the small bit of security that a life-earned pension provides, and then they want to go statewide. And so for AEA members on this call tonight, and there are about 4,000 AEA members across the city of Phoenix that are eligible to vote no on Prop 487, I'm asking you to do exactly that. Stand with our friends in emergency responders. Stand with our friends who are City of Phoenix employees, and stand on a strong no vote to Prop 487, because it's these folks today, but it will be us again. And we've been down this road before. We've had attacks on our retirement. We've had the misinformation campaigns. We've had to appeal to the grassroots. Now, we've also been victorious in the courts, but you don't want it to come to that. The best thing we can do right now is strike down Prop 487 on November 4th and send a clear message for this kind of attack and misinformation campaign to stop.
Andrew, we're so privileged to have you with us, and we're so privileged to have you, your association, our teachers, and our education staff all over Arizona supporting us in this cause. And it's clear that these folks want to divide us, and they want to push a lot of the monies that would normally go into our pockets upon retirement up to Wall Street through all kinds of fees that they can get through 401k programs, and they stand to make trillions of dollars if they do that. And so we really appreciate your support and appreciate that question. And with that, just a reminder to everybody, if you're on the call and you have a question, all you have to do to bring that question forward is to press 0 on your telephone. And so with that, I'm going to give the results of our first poll. Our first poll question was, have you heard about the No on 487 campaign? It was a 1 for yes, a 2 for no, no and a 3 for unsure. And I'm glad to say that 89% of the folks on the call have heard about the No on 487 campaign. Only 6 had not, and only 4% were unsure. That's great numbers. So that means everybody, for the most part, knows what's going on with it. And so, with that, we're going to move on to our second poll question. Okay, and so the question we're going to pose to you all in the audience is: can we count on you to vote no on 487? What we could use from you is, if you will vote no on 487, would you please press 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for undecided and need more information. And I know this can get confusing, so let me be clear. If you're willing to vote no on 487, press 1. If you're going to vote yes on 487, press 2. And if you're undecided, please press 3. And with that, we're going to move on to another question from the audience. And why don't we move on to Timothy? Go ahead with your question, Timothy.
Hello?
Yes, Timothy, go right ahead. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm a member of the AEA, and I think that Andrew's done a fantastic job as our leader. And I'm confused as far as the language of the ballot proposition. I was talking to people on both sides of the issue, and I couldn't find anybody that could really point me to the language in the ballot that says the survivor benefits would be taken away. I know the proponents of the ballot initiative say that it's an insurance and it's going to be there either way. And those of you who want us to vote no say survivor benefits won't be there any longer. What I found was the closest I could figure out was the ballot says the city won't be able to contribute to pension funds anymore. So, I don't know, I was hoping for a clarification or maybe a specific line or section of the ballot that brings that forward.
Well, thank you, Timothy, for the question. I'm really glad you asked that, and you're very close in your interpretation. There is a specific area of the proposition. They often refer to what is the intent, what they claim is the intent, which is almost meaningless at the heart of what the change to the city charter would be. What we're deeply concerned about is the specificity there's a line there that says the city shall only contribute to this retirement system. When they say this retirement system, they're referring to the new 401k system for employees. And so not only does that potentially mean that they'll no longer participate in the public safety retirement system for future employees, as well as even possibly current employees, and that's where the domino effect really happens, because it begins by very perniciously in there saying that they're only going to participate in this new 401k system, and the city has interpreted that language to say that would cause them to have to stop making payments to the statewide public safety system, which the domino effect would mean possibly them having to lose what are known as their joinder agreements with the PSPRS, and ultimately not be able to pay out sick and death benefits to our widows and retirees, and that would start the process of them not being able to participate anymore. And that is buried down in the language, and it's not in the intent area, and that's why we think it's been a sneak attack. And that's my take on it, but I'll turn it over to Steve to see if Steve has any more to add on that.
Timothy, thanks for the question, but Brian is absolutely right. Brian is also a citizen of Phoenix and a past city council member, so he knows very well the inner workings of the city, and how the government works, and how these initiatives work. One of the things we really haven't talked about yet is how poorly written this initiative really is. Now, this organization had probably well over $1 million to start with, and you think with that kind of money, they would write a squeaky clean initiative if they wanted to. But we truly believe that they're up to something sneaky here, and they wrote a murky initiative, and it's going to be litigated for years just trying to clear it up. This initiative is poorly written, is dangerous in more ways than one, and it needs to be defeated.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Steve, and thank you again for the question. And I want to move on. I want to introduce. We have a third speaker with us today, and we're very privileged to be joined by Luis Schmidt, who is the president of AFSCME, which is the Arizona Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and represents City of Phoenix employees. We're really glad to have him here, and the timing to bring you on, Luis, is probably perfect because I have a question in the queue that I think you would probably enjoy answering. And so with that, Luis, did you have a few things to say before we move to that question?
You know what? Let's let the question get out, then I'll go ahead and introduce myself and answer the question at the same time.
Well, excellent. Okay, well, then let's move on to Troy from Phoenix. Troy, welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, how you doing? My question is, why is Sal DiCiccio, who's a councilman, so for this 487 initiative, and who is he working with, and what does he get out of it? Why is he so against firefighters and police officers in his own city?
Luis, I'll hand that question over to you.
Good. I'll introduce myself quick, Troy, then I'll go ahead and answer your question. My name is Luis Schmidt, the president of AFSCME Local 2384 here in the city of Phoenix. As everybody's been saying on this call, Prop 487 is bad for the city of Phoenix, is bad for taxpayers, bad for public safety, and bad for the pension reform that the voters just approved pension reform in 2013, saving over $600 million. And the city council took further action this spring to eliminate the pension spiking. So to your question directly, why is Sal DiCiccio, in support of this? You have to backtrack a little bit. Just a few years ago, he was in support of. He got reelected into office. Our firefighters helped him get reelected. So as you can see, Sal DiCiccio, talks out of both sides of his mouth. If you saw him on Channel 12, he did a horrible job. He said he didn't know who was behind this initiative, but he directly himself has said that he helped word some of the initiative that is very confusing, not only to the public, but even to the city's own attorneys and even to the independent attorneys. At the end of the day, Sal DiCiccio, if he supports this initiative, which he does, then it tells you he supports the dark money that's coming into our state, the dark money that's flooding our airwaves to confuse the voters. And at the end of the day, dark money is in Arizona politics for a reason, because when dark money politicians win and their propositions win, the people who back them are the ones who benefit, and they benefit down the road. So unfortunately, it's sad to see that one or two council members get behind it, but they're in it for their selfish reasons. But at the end of the day, our grassroots effort, the mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, Valenzuela, Gallego, and Pastor, they're all in support of this and support of defeating this because they know that it's going to be bad for our city. We just faced a $38 million shortfall, and we cannot afford to have this dark money group, Sal and all his cronies and all his buddies, come over and try to fool the voters. And the reason this got on the ballot is because they had to pay people to go out there and gather signatures. But everybody on this phone, everybody listening to it, throughout the state, everybody's combined effort is what's making the difference in Proposition 487, and we will defeat it. Thank you.
Luis, thank you for that great answer. And Troy, thank you for the question again. And I'll give a little more history here. Some of you may remember that in 2011, there was another politician who was trying to make a name for himself by pushing all of us, the teachers, firefighters, and police from a statewide aspect down at the Arizona legislature. He was trying to push us into 401k plans and demolish our pensions, and his name was Kirk Adams. Kirk Adams and Sal DiCiccio have both worked together on these efforts now for the last few years. And what Kirk Adams was doing at the time was trying to springboard his own career to try to raise a lot of money from the big money Wall Street folks that are funding this stuff to take him to Congress. And he almost was successful. We believe, we don't know for certain, but we believe that Sal DiCiccio is trying to use this as a springboard also to bring attention to himself from the big money, outside dark money people to springboard his career to gosh knows where he wants to go. So I'll end with that, and I'll move on to our last poll question. And before I give our last poll question...
Brian, this is Andrew. Can I just jump in really fast?
I would love for you to. Go ahead, Andrew.
I think it's really important, and you kind of hit on this at the beginning of the call tonight, but I don't want it to be lost on folks that may be looking for a motive and a reason behind this, and you hit on it. The folks that want to basically privatize the public employee pension system are looking at the potential of millions of dollars in transaction fees, banking fees, privatized fees, when they can get their hands on the defined contribution system, which is what they want to convert our pensions and retirement plans to. So whether it's talking about who's backing Sal DiCiccio or Kirk Adams, as you said, all these efforts, this initiative, the folks that are against public pensions and largely against public employees in the first place, they're all funded in their campaigns by these folks that stand to make millions of dollars. This has nothing to do with financial security of the middle class. This doesn't have a lot to do with the average taxpayer. This has to do with a basic pyramid scheme of transactions that float up to folks that are already wealthy beyond belief and want more. And it's that greed pyramid that is largely at the headwaters of these kinds of attacks on the middle class.
Andrew's exactly right. It is well known that throughout the United States there is over $3 trillion of public employee monies pooled in well-funded, well-managed pension systems. And if they can privatize that, get their hands on it into 401k-style plans, they can yield up to 30% of that just through the types of fees that Andrew describes. It would be a landslide of money right into their pockets and out of your benefits. And especially
yes, and a reduced benefit plan, and I'll
without question. I wanted to bring up the results now of our second poll question, and again, the great response from everybody tonight. Looks like close to 90% of our folks will be voting no. Looks like we still have just a handful of people that need some more information, and we'll certainly provide that at any point if you need to, and just a few people that were voting no. So that's, again, great results, and we really appreciate you giving us that statistical information. And with that, let's move ahead to our third poll question. And again, let me remind you also, if at any time you want to ask any questions of us at all, remember to just hit 0 on your telephone. So let's move to that third poll question. Okay, will you commit to talking to your friends, family, and or neighbors about why they should vote no on 487? If you're willing to talk to your friends, family, or neighbors, could you please press 1 for yes? Or could you please press 2 for no? Or press 3 if you're unsure. And we'll go ahead and tally that vote. And again, if at any point you have any questions for us whatsoever, go ahead and push 0 on your telephone, and we'll get to your questions right away. And let's move on. And we're looking at some of the poll results. It looks like they're starting to come in. We really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And it looks like we've got a couple questions on the way here. Give us just a moment as those get processed through our 21st century poll processing system we have here. All right. Kim, is that other question ready for us? All right, and there it pops up. All right, we have a question from Jim in Phoenix. Jim, we're ready for you if you're ready.
Yes, Brian, and this question mostly goes to Captain Berline. I think Timothy was the one that had the question about the death and disability benefits and how the other side is saying that there's an insurance policy. I assume that is true. I believe there is a lump sum payment, but I also I believe that all the families receive a monthly benefit out of the pension system that if a member is killed in the line of duty with less than 20 years, it's automatically assumed, and they are advanced to a 20-year point. So say a cop or firefighter is killed in the line of duty, then they would get, or their families would receive the 80% of their 50% for a monthly benefit. So say a cop's making $40,000 a year or $50,000 a year, he is assumed to have a $20,000 or $25,000 a year pension, and then the benefit of 80% would then go to his family on top of what other benefits. Am I correct in that assumption?
Steve, would you like that, or would you like me to?
Brian, you represent the state, if you don't mind answering that.
My pleasure. The best way to answer your question, I believe, is actually to maybe give you a scenario and kind of walk through how we believe this thing could potentially work. So you mentioned the police officer. The police officer making $50,000 a year. You're absolutely correct. As it stands today, if that police officer were killed in the line of duty, within the public safety personnel retirement system, his widow and children would receive several benefits. I won't get into all of them, but yes, they will give a portion of his pension, his or her pension for life based on actualizations and whatnot. So that's how it stands today. So if Prop 487 were to be successful, there's two other very possible scenarios that could play out. The second scenario would be that starting in 2015, the City of Phoenix would interpret that they can no longer, based on the language of 487, participate in the public safety personnel retirement system because the language says that they'll only participate in this new 401k. That would mean that the money that flows into the public safety personnel retirement system that would help pay for the death and disability benefits for the person, the police officer in situation one, would stop flowing into the system. The next part of the chain of events was that the people that administer the PSPRS would eventually have to stop not only pension payments, but death and disability payments to those widows because they're no longer receiving income from the City of Phoenix. The City of Phoenix has basically stopped paying their bills, if it would be the best way to put it. So that is the potentiality in scenario number two. Now, let's just say, for example, that the courts come back, and there'll probably be years of court cases as a result of this. The courts come back and say, no, all current people will have to continue to receive money from the City of Phoenix and will have to keep paying those death and disability benefits for life. Okay, maybe that will happen. But let's move on to scenario number three. Scenario number three says, let's say in March of 2015, after this is enacted, a brand new City of Phoenix police officer is hired. The City of Phoenix also interprets the language to say that all new police officers and firefighters will only be eligible for this new 401k plan. That would completely, no matter what the courts say, shut them off from eligibility for being part of the public safety personnel retirement system, which would mean there is no benefit under the PSPRS for them if they were to be hurt or killed in the line of duty in that same year of 2015. And there is no insurance benefit. All they'll have is their 401k. Those are two different scenarios. Either one, we can't tell you absolutely for certain that they'll play out in that regard, but we know that both of those are likely, and those aren't just by our estimations. Those are the way outside legal staff that was hired by the City of Phoenix to come in and look at these are saying that they could go depending on how things go in the courts. And by the way, that is just yet another terrible side effect of Prop 487, is that we will be fighting over these issues for years to the expense of not only good-hearted public employees, but as well as to our taxpayers for fighting these things in the courts to figure out what the heck they mean, because as Captain Berline mentioned earlier, it was so poorly written. And who knows, maybe that was only written so lawyers can make lots of money. And with that, let's go ahead and move on. We want to move on to another fourth poll question. And before we do that, let's give the results of our third poll question. And thankfully, we had a great response to our third poll, and it looks like 96% of you are willing to talk to your friends, family, or neighbors about voting no on Prop 487, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And I will tell you also that ballots are coming in very slowly. So for whatever reason, whatever things are on the ballot, people are taking their time filling out their ballots right now, and there's yet many people that will vote on Election Day. So there are plenty of people out there to talk to that can help us get the word out to vote no on Prop 487. So as a reminder, if any of you have any questions whatsoever, please press 0 on your dial and we can get to those questions. We've got a couple holding and we will get to you shortly. But before we do so, let's move on to our fourth poll question. Our fourth poll question is, can we count on you to join us for a canvass? Would you be willing to get out and knock on some doors with our folks, going door to door, chatting with people about this? If you'd be willing to canvass for us, please press 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for you're unsure. And with that, we'll be watching those poll results come in. And again, I want to thank my great team here, Captain Berline, President Andrew Morrill, and President Louise Schmidt. And let's move on and get to these other questions. We've got several in the queue. And we'll go to Tom in Phoenix. He's got a great question. I look forward to the answer to this one. Tom, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tom. I live in Phoenix, in North Phoenix. And somebody came to my door and knocked and said they were a policeman, and he was trying to encourage me to vote yes on 487. I was kind of confused because I thought police and firemen were against this measure. And I had, after talking to him, I had heard that possibly people are posing as police and firemen and trying to convince people to vote yes on it. Is that true?
Wow, that's interesting. Go ahead, Luis. Did you have an answer for that?
Yes. So I mean, Tom, unfortunately, that kind of deception is going to happen. What I do ask you is that if you're confronted with that again, I would ask for, show them any public safety, whether it's a firefighter or a police officer, will show you their badge. But I guarantee you that not one firefighter or police officer is in support of Proposition 487 because, first of all, they know it's going to harm the citizens, but it's also going to harm the city services and public safety. So, unfortunately, people are desperate, and any type of any effort to mislead a voter to vote yes for it, they're going to do it. I mean, look at their TV ads. You can look at their misleading mailers that you're getting in the mail. All that it's a concerted effort to mislead the voters, Tom.
Steve, are you hearing this as well, that there's people out there impersonating police and firefighters going door to door or in front of stores and things of that nature?
Yes, Brian. And Tom, thank you. This is the fourth incident that I've heard of. One was in Ahwatukee. We had one on the west side of Maryvale area and one in Arcadia. And what we know for a fact is for them to get this initiative on the ballot, they had to collect signatures. We know for a fact that they actually bust in people from out of state and paid them to gather these signatures for them. This is not a local citizens initiative. This is a paid-for initiative. As Luis talked about, they're desperate right now. We had a couple firefighters question some. There were 2 cars in Ahwatukee over the weekend putting yes on 487 signs up, and they asked those individuals, and they were told that they were hired to come in and put up signs. So when we talk about transparency in these important issues, you'll find the citizens of Phoenix and police officers and firefighters knocking on doors, talking to the citizens opposing 487. But you're going to find dirty, secret tactics, as you witnessed, Tom, from the yes side, and it's desperation, and that's how dark money operates. It's quite frightening, I believe.
That is appalling to hear that people are impersonating police officers and firefighters, which is illegal, by the way, and that just shows the lows that these people will go to in this campaign. Let's move on to another question. Thanks for the last one, and let's go on to Joe in Phoenix. Joe, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My question is, since public safety personnel don't pay into the Social Security system, how is a yes on 47 going to affect that?
I can take that question, and I will tell you that the vast majority of public safety officers, both police and fire, not just in the city of Phoenix, but throughout the state of Arizona and beyond, are not in Social Security. And to clarify, many of us were excluded from Social Security many decades ago, and there's lots of reasons that happened. It wasn't really a choice of ours. It was just a design issue going way back. But that is a critical question, and I'm glad you posed it, because 487, while it would push new employees into a 401k plan, it does nothing to go back to the federal government and try to do anything to repair the notion that public safety officers are not in Social Security. So not only is there a likelihood that future police officers and firefighters would be shoved into a 401k plan, that would be all they would have. They would not be eligible for Social Security. Even those that have worked on the side or got hired later in life that got in their quarters into Social Security, there are two provisions in federal law, and I don't want to get too in depth here, but one is known as the windfall provision, and the other one is known as the government pension offset provision. Both of those can have a dramatically negative effect on any Social Security that a police officer or firefighter could collect if they had alternative employment. And those offsets will reduce Social Security benefits for the few that would be eligible by over 60% in most cases. So the amount of Social Security that they would be able to collect, if any at all, would be dramatically reduced. This Prop 487 does nothing to repair that. So not only would they have a dramatically reduced retirement benefit from a 401k plan, they'd have almost nothing or likely nothing from Social Security. And so we're trying to, what these people are trying to do, what Sal DeCiccio is trying to do, is really take our public safety officers and our City of Phoenix employees and make them destitute. It's really what that would result in the long term. So with that, we have another question pending, and let's go to Linda in Sun City West. Linda, thank you for your call.
Okay, thank you. I just kind of have a generic question about terminology. The spiking is kind of a misleading term in that don't firefighters, I'm from a Forest Service and postal workers background, and don't they pay in, don't they work for getting their medical leave and their retirement and their sick leave and their vacation time? Isn't that part of their contract, so to speak? So that spiking, you've already earned this money, so now they're saying you can't have it, so it's going back to the state. And then also, they also want to do the 401k. Well, that depends on the market. You don't ever know what the market's going to be like. This is not protected at all. This is not good. I cannot imagine anybody wanting to do that. You got to have your retirement. It's solid. You can't depend on, $500 this month and $2,000 the next month for your retirement. That is absolutely absurd. Is that the way it's written?
Linda, thank you for that question, and I agree with your points about the uncertainty of the 401k plans and the future of the markets. And to add to that, as was mentioned earlier, that remember, most firefighters, police officers, and there are other public employees that don't receive Social Security, and so the amount they receive could be locked in for many years to come, despite major increases of inflation. And part of trying to get a decent amount, a respectable amount of retirement upon leaving is trying to deal with the realities of inflation and increased health care costs. But Steve, did you have any remarks about the aspects of all of your benefits being negotiated in your meet and confer agreements and how that's affected?
I don't have a whole lot to add, Linda, but I absolutely agree with you. First of all, if you look at the history of 401ks, they were never intended to be a retirement plan. They were to supplement a pension. And so times have changed, and a lot of organizations have gone that way, but they're highly volatile, as we all know. As far as pension spiking goes, everybody has their own definition of exactly what that is. This group, Yes on 487, they feel that overtime shouldn't even be calculated in your final numbers for your pension. So they are as extreme as they possibly could come, and they are dangerous. And again, it's so important that we vote no on Proposition 487.
That's exactly right, Steve. And ironically, not only were 401k plans never designed to be a primary retirement investment vehicle, they were actually designed for wealthy executives to have yet another place on top of their pensions to hide more money away from the tax man until later in life. They weren't designed for average workers, that's for sure. They were, as Steve mentioned, they were only designed to be a supplement that could have the additions and the exposure to the market without creating a significant hindrance if there were to be a market turn down, and which could cause major calamity for people and their families who are just trying to get by in their golden years. So I see that we don't have any more questions, and I think we've covered a lot of material tonight. And so I want to thank everybody for calling in. I'll wrap up in just a few points. And one is our last poll question talked about, can we count on you to join us for a canvas? And we had a great response. Over half of you said that you'd be glad to help us with that, and so certainly contact our organizations, and we'll set you we'll point you in the right direction on where you might be able to give some assistance. And a few others were not so comfortable with that, and we certainly understand that. And so we'll gladly get you some materials. We have plenty of materials down at 61 East Columbus in Phoenix. That's 61 East Columbus in Phoenix. We're there during normal business hours, and we've got handouts and yard signs and brochures that if you wanted to even just go around your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors and your friends and your families about No on 487 and give them the materials so they can become educated. And if you wanted a yard sign, we've still got some left, so come on down. And with that, I especially just want to thank Steve Berline, Andrew Morrill, and Louis Schmidt, leaders in all of our prospective organizations, for joining us this evening and helping raise awareness. And I have to end with something, and that is that Prop 487 is just the beginning. This effort really began in Tucson not long ago, and thankfully it was thrown off the ballot, but they were going to go after the Tucson employees and go after their pension benefits. And when they weren't successful, they picked up the pieces and came back yet again, and as Steve Berline mentioned, they bussed people in and they paid canvassers. These aren't City of Phoenix activists. These aren't residents that are up in arms over this stuff. They had to pay people to take these signatures and try to get this on the ballot to meet their means. And we firmly believe that they are not stopping at the City of Phoenix, that in 2015 we may all be facing, and I mean teachers and county employees and state employees and other police officers and firefighters and county sheriffs and you name it, will be facing a statewide effort to take all public employees into a 487 type situation and take all of us to a 401k uncertain retirement future. And so all of your support tonight in showing up and getting our information is greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll let Steve give a few comments, and then Andrew, and then Luis as we wrap things up.
Thank you, Brian. That is very, very, very well said. Andrew, all the educators out there, we really, really do appreciate your support. This has been a great town hall. It's an honor for me to sit here and participate. And without dragging this on any longer, I'll hand it back to you, Brian. And thank you all again for participating.
Thanks. Andrew, do you have a few comments?
Just once again, that if you're an educator, if you're an AEA member thinking, well, this isn't directly my issue, it's one step removed, and it's a matter of timing, not the issue. We need to beat this now. We need to defeat Prop 487. The Free Enterprise Club is so convinced that this is a pivotal vote that they've actually gone out and begun to look for political consultants to manage the statewide campaign if Prop 487 passes. So to the educators, stand with your union brothers and sisters, stand with the middle class, vote no on Prop 487, because the best way to defeat future attempts is to defeat this piece right now on November 4th.
Excellent, Andrew. Thank you for those comments. And Luis, you represent just tons of really hardworking City of Phoenix employees who just want to have a great retirement for themselves and their families. Do you have a few comments before we close?
Yes. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for being on the call tonight. Thank you for everybody's hard work. And if you need more information, you can go to www.voteno on487.com. and you can get more information. But you have to remember that an independent analysis was done by it was not a city analysis. An independent analysis was done, which told the city if 487 passes, it's going to cost you a minimum of $350 million, as high as over $600 million. So this was not, this was an independent analysis that was done. Prop 487 is a dark money-driven operation. Many of the provisions are unconstitutional, but at the end of the day, these people don't care, because at the end of the day, like some of the speakers said earlier, the lawyers are going to make the money, are the ones who are going to make the money from this. The Free Enterprise Club, this is just one. They're trying to hit a home run here, but our grassroots efforts, everybody combined, doing what you can, is how we're going to beat this, because it's like Steve said, and Andrew, we're all in this together, working families. All we want to do is come and serve and have retirement security and retire with dignity and respect. And if Proposition 487 passes, it's going to just strip away those crucial benefits that are there for our first responders who put their lives on the line for us. The least we could do is make sure that we are there now when they need us. So vote no on 487. If you want to canvass with us, you can come to 3636 North 15th Avenue this Saturday at 12 o'clock. We have a big barbecue. You can also join us this is the last weekend to canvass before the vote November 4th. Thank you.
Even providing barbecue. That's excellent, Luis. Thank you very much.
We'll feed you, whatever it takes, Yeah.
Excellent. Again, thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you to our great speakers. And thank you to the AEA for setting all of this up. And with that, we'll close. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. No on 487.
That's right.